Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel here. Joey Only up in Wells, BC. Tonight we had a meeting at the Wells Community Hall with BC Wildfire Service in attendance, RCMP, firefighters, and all the different community interests. Of course, Barkerville was there, and they talked about wildfire preparation for this summer. And a lot of it's very good. Of course, what our bosses there, Wildfire Service, came and said was, of course, awesome because Sal and Kara are great people. And they mean well, and they do well. They work well, and they have our best interests at heart, and I totally trust them. I totally trust Zone here. What I don't trust necessarily, and I'm probably going to have to make a whole video talking about this, is that our town here in Wells has a fighting spirit. And it's like, this is something that I need to, I really want to get across to people and communities out there in BC to have a spirit of we can win. We can win, you know. That's maybe besides the point today, as I'm here to talk about snowpack, but it relates to wildfire season and how I think things are going to start off. As we're getting into it, we did have a wildfire start down by Cache Creek a day or two ago. We've had fire starts already. Nothing that unusual. We're in that spring dip right now. There's a lot of dry grass. Things are very flammable in those dry places. Whereas here in Wells, we have feet of snow still. We're a long ways away from the spring dip, and it's not just snow. It's very compact snow from all the weight of itself over the winter, and the snow that's there, it's going to take a long time to melt. That's what always happens here. That's the usual in Wells. Our lake will not thaw until sometime around Mother's Day, generally. Okay, so at some point I got to make a whole video talking about how communities need to have a fighting attitude, how we can organize cohesively as a community to do more than just cut our grass and trim back our trees and have some logging plans out there, and that's all good stuff, and certainly evacuation plans. It's all important stuff. I'm not trying to dismiss any of that, but to have this culture of we can win, we can stand as a community and we can win. I think it's something that communities need to take on in BC now. I think in general we need to have that fighting attitude as Canadians, and keep our chins up and be ready to do our part when the going gets tough. We've done that before as a country, and we'll do it again. And certainly we did that as a community last year when everyone had to evacuate. I think we could look at a future where a town like ours doesn't have to just necessarily at least the fire department not evacuate. My fuck. Okay. Let's talk about the snowpack. Snowpack showed improvement. I'll explain. Let's go. There it is. This is bad news.
My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen.
Get on!
Wow. I'll watch the video later.
Keep on going to the water.
They dry mopping this. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. I'm back again. Okay, so the snowpack, it's showing some improvement since the last map was put out. We're looking at 79% of the average snowpack in BC. So, there's snow out there. Yeah, a lot of areas are going to dry out faster than maybe they should have or would have in other years and what you would consider an average year. And so that's when you're thinking 79%, you're like, well, that's close. But actually, no, 100% is average. That's an average year. And it's, what do you think about it like that? And you're like, wow, that's actually fairly below average. Nonetheless, it's an improvement. And a part of that improvement's because, except for a couple really warm days we had there, if you recall, except for them last weekend, we've mostly had, and that burnt off a lot of snow, but we've mostly had cooler conditions in the province. And a lot of nights it's been still getting down to zero and lots of places staying chilly at night. So that's hindering snow melt for sure. So it's some of it that we put on some more snow, but in a lot of cases it's just that the expected melt rate wasn't there yet. Let's have a look at the map now. Let's do it. So when we're trying to look at this map and infer some information from it, what we have to recall is that the snow reporting stations are mostly up in the mountains, up in high places, right? So when we're talking about the snow basin indices, what they're trying to talk about here for snow conditions and water supply conditions is how much snow is up in the big mountains. That's really the key here, right? Because the low country, that when you see South Thompson or Lower Thompson at 83%, that Kamloops is not at 83% of normal, because normal is zero snow there for this time. So you keep in mind that these numbers are for where the snow is. The total volume of snow that you would expect in a region, I suppose. But where is that snow going to be expected to be? It's going to be in the high country, right? So there's the reporting station here, for example, is in Barkerville, up on the mountain there. It's not down here in town, because we don't get the same amount of snow that we do 2,000 feet up on Cow or Barkerville Mountain or any of the peaks around here. Okay. So now that we're talking about that, now we're having this recognition that there's not the snow necessarily in the dry country already. So we're not looking at a snowpack that relates to you necessarily. It more relates to flooding potential, right? What's the flooding potential? Well, if you have an area where you're at a real high number, which none of these are, everything's below right now. So that's something you got to look at too and keep into mind. Similkameen at 22%, that is insane, right? So everything's low. Everything's very low. Nothing's above 100%. And when we looked at this map at different times this winter, there were times that there were things in the 100 percentile. West Fraser, Upper Fraser West, these areas north of Prince George, they're actually the one area that's close. They're at 94%, and that's high country. That's Patsizi Plateau. Not as good in the North Rockies as I was expecting at 76%. That's a little surprising to me. I expected a little bit higher. I thought Liard at 84% maybe would be closer to what we'd see in the Peace Mountains. Of course, out in the Fort St. John, I'm sure there's not much snow there anymore, right? The Nass at 68% of its expected volume, and that's surprising to me too, knowing how many snow storms have gone up there. So has the melt rate reduced their snow load? Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Now, the Central Coast is at 45%. Now, we know there's snow coming for them in the next few days, but a lot of that's going to fall as rain. Some of that will kill snow more than put it on. That's bad. That's, it's bad. Central Coast at 45%. And what's this? Chilcotin rolling zero? Zero in the Chilcotin, 0% of its expected snow load. So where are we looking for fire season to really kick off? And we already know down by Bridge, 63%. Well, we just had, between Lillooet and Cache Creek, a fire report the other day. I think it was 5 hectares. They probably got it. I mean, come on. It's 5 hectare fire, no big deal. We got lots of resources to throw at a fire right now because there's not many fires happening. So when, a fire does happen, ministry, whatever they got available is probably going to get thrown at it, right? So, and that includes aircraft and helicopters and things. So, I mean, sure. Springtime's not a bad time to have a fire because there's not many fires. So, last year when we had the fire at McLeese Lake break out and we all got put to work, there's firefighters from everywhere showing up because, it's the only thing happening in the province. And let's get it. Everybody wants to be there. It's like every crew sees a fire's happening and wants to be the crew that gets called. That's always what we want. We want the work. But, and the experience. It's really fun. So a lot of the Caribou Mountains, it's not terrible. 89 percentile up here, 85 percentile. It's not terrible. But when it says 85 percentile, 89 percentile, and I look out the window and I imagine past winters, I know that that's a bit of a skewed number because even here in town, we don't have the snow we would expect. I'm sure maybe up in the big mountains, up in the Caribous. But when we have a wildfire, if it's out in the Caribous, no one really cares, right? It's this whole area that's not covered in this snow report. So that's the one thing I just want to mention when we're talking about these snow reports. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't useful for having a consideration about fire season ahead. Of course it is, and I'll tell you why. Because that's large parts of our province that, the snow load up there tends to keep things a little bit more cool and humid in the province. So the longer the snow hangs on, now a couple degrees may not seem like a big deal to you, but it can be a big deal in terms of fire behavior, in terms of how fast things dry out and fires can happen. So there's that. The snow load also means, all that area up in the top of the mountains isn't going to burn at least. So that's whole areas you can kind of sign off on. And so on and so forth. And that means the rivers and the creeks will probably be higher too, and that will help. That'll also make fighting fire easy if there's a lot of water in the river systems out there and the creek systems and the basins and whatnot. So it's nice to start off with, I know last year, water was difficult. It was dry in a lot of places early on. I know the year before that too, like when we were up in the Peace. A lot of water sources were pretty dry in May already, right? So, but that area of the Peace, it's prone to that Alberta fire behavior where it can start off in the May and be like the worst month that they have all year. No, yeah, just to the guy who says, I hate snow, where the fuck did you get that from? yeah, I don't like the end of winter here. Nobody's snowboarding up at Troll Ski Hill, man. The ski hill's closed. Like, what do you want from me? You want me to go out and lug through the snow every day to prove to you that I'm a mountain man? Like, go fuck yourself. I've spent a lot of winters up here. I've done a lot of timber cruising. I've done a lot of wildfire fighting. I climbed a lot of mountains. I fought all the fucking bears. Man, I used to work for parks out there at Ballard. I'm an old man now, and if I want to spend the end of winter broke and unable to fucking do much and watch the snow melt, that's my problem. Nonetheless, I don't think anyone's ever found an instance where I said I hate snow. I chose to live here for a reason, man. I like the winters here. And I like, as long as it's fresh snow, I like it. And at this time of year, no. Now it's just the waiting game. It's a long waiting game. Did I make a video this morning where I went, egad, snow? I knew there was snow out the window already. It's called dramatic effect, motherfuckers. Okay.
The incident commander said to me, like, I know this is a shitty spot. And I said, well, no, it's our spot. I said, if you have shitty spots that other crews don't want to go to, I want that spot. In fact, we were made for this.
So a really big bummer is that we still don't have any drought information for the province of British Columbia officially. So they don't do drought reporting until drought season, right? And there's some droughty things we could be talking about in the province, I suppose. Like, again, you got to take this with a bit of a grain of salt. What we got for what it's going to say for drought. But if we go to the 100 centimeters, we look at today and what's it saying? Well, things are cool. There's a bit rainy out there. There's precip going through. It's not so bad. These areas still showing drought up in the north on these maps a lot. I'm curious about that. I know the Donnie Creek fire is out finally. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump forward to when we know the warm weather's showing up back into BC, which is probably going to be, if not the 14th, the 15th will be a safe bet. And, look at the areas and, try to imagine once we get a couple warm days, how fast things are going to dry out there. And when we have, of course, a lot of dry grass because things aren't growing yet, a lot of, dead, dry things to start the year, where are we looking at for our fire potential? So our fire potential and our drought potential are usually pretty linked. Our drought codes are part of what we use to determine what fire behavior will be like. But yeah, in terms of fire danger, I mean, we're not in any danger necessarily in BC. Like I say, it doesn't mean fires can't happen and maybe couldn't even do some damage. Southern Alberta showing fire danger. That's typical. It's going to be pretty warm down there. As we get into our warmer spell over the next little bit, what are we looking at? So there's a period there in southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan where grass fire could be a problem, certainly. It's low, though. The yellow means low, right? So green is very low. It's not till we get down to these like southern Alberta areas where sometimes you have fires and at times you don't really expect there. Like Medicine Hat's really dry country, right? Down along the Milk River, down along Highway 3. Very dry country. Out towards Medicine Hat, into Maple Creek. When you go into Maple Creek, Saskatchewan, it's like the friggin' desert there, man. It really is. Gull Lake is it's a desert. So, yeah, there is that fire risk there. Where are we actually looking in North America for fire risk? Well, the heat is on down south. So anybody who's down there, well, Nebraska showing some bad colors. That's sad for them. Colorado's got some high. Kansas has already had some fires, and so has Oklahoma. Not looking good for them. And then, look at Mexico, Texas, California, Las Vegas. We got lots of areas down there. It's been really hot down there and is going to be very hot down there. Those are areas where you can more or less expect that we'll be seeing that fire danger really ramp up in the next, something's going to happen. Look at these heat values down there, 30s. We're on April 17th there. And what's it going to be like? Nice 32s, warm through Kansas. So you can see like some of that fire dangers attached to that hot weather. There's a lot of heat for early in the year already. There's a lot of heat, folks. I'm sorry you don't want to hear climate change stuff, but I mean, I've been watching weather for a long time now. I'm turning 46 next week, and I've been interested in weather since I was like my son's age or younger. Like I've been watching the weather for a long time, and I'm telling you, that's a lot of heat early in the season. Although I've been in Ontario where we've had 27-degree days at the end of April, so it's not like it's never happened, but. When I've watched how early the heat started showing up and what it was doing in the States, I started feeling like, man, like that's early. Feels early this year. Seems early, and looks like April will end with the warm spell out towards Ontario. You're finally gonna get it. I mean, the poor people out there, you've been just getting slammed with shitty weather. Anyways, enough talking for now. Just some heads up on fire season potential already and what we're looking at, friends. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. We'll keep seeing you here back again. It was really good to see my friends there from Wildfire Service. Can't wait to be out in the field with you again this year. I'm getting ready. I am going for jogs and walks and things during the day. I know I joked in my Surrey video there. Who wants to run around? But I do actually. So I do those things. Yeah. Beautiful night here in Wells, BC. Here comes more snow. Okay, bye for now.